Okay, welcome to this session. Today we want to present how we present data quality KPIs to our C-level in Lunar. I think I'll just skip to the next slide. Thank you. Good, so just quickly here presenting ourselves. I'm Signe and I'm the head of data warehouse at Lunar. And perhaps you want to present yourself, Bjørn?
Yeah, my name is Bjørn Bergman. I'm a data manager at Lunar, so standing for the controls of data governance, etc.
Yes.
Don't worry, we'll come back to a similar slide, so you can find our QR code there.
Yes. Cool. Let's jump to the next one then. So first of all, who is Lunar? Lunar is a bank, a 100% digital bank in the Nordics. We have a Danish banking license. And we were started back in 2015. What else can I say? We have approximately 900,000 customers, private customers, and also almost 20,000 business customers now. Relatively new, but still a lot. We are also a bank that our customers actually like, as you can see here, with 52 plus NPS. And we focus a lot on customer satisfaction. Just very briefly on the Lunar organization and how our data architecture fits into that. So we are organized into domain colonies, focusing on different areas of running a bank, basically. So we have, for example, a transaction banking colony. We have a user and account banking colony. And all of these colonies are composed of different squads. These squads are all based on tech people mainly, and of course people from product as well. And we build a microservice architecture, all event driven. So that means that all the squads are building their own microservice that emits the data into Lunar, and then other squads can catch up this data or events. We have around 800 microservices running, emitting this data. And we have approximately 800 weekly deploys, so a lot of data floating around, and things are going really fast. That's also why it's really important for us to have a really strong data governance and data platform strategy here. We need to gather all of this data running around in Lunar, and we do that in our data platform. First of all this data comes in our data lake, S3. And then we take it into our Redshift data warehouse, where we do all of our transformations and data processing in dbt. This ownership of the data platform is placed in a different kind of colony, not a domain colony, but what we call an empower colony, so it's sort of centralized. We do have people in the domain colonies, data people in the domain colonies, building the dashboards and so on and getting the insights for the different domains, but the sort of core data team is placed in this Empower colony, where we build our data platform, and we make sure we could support the different squads with good data. We have around 8,000 models, dbt models, and approximately the same number of tests. So, yeah, quite a lot going on. And we of course deliver data to business reporting. We use Lunar as our BI tool. Then we also the core of our regulatory reporting. Being a bank, we need to have really good data going into different types of regulatory reports, both for Denmark, Norway, and Sweden, where we operate. And then, of course, we also use this data in AI and ML. And we also, besides delivering data back to our domain colonies, we also use the data for different line of business, so finance, marketing and so on, that are not placed in any of the colonies. And then on top of that, we have this observability tool, SYNQ, that gathers the data from our dbt test and gives us where we could get this data quality reports, and Bjørn will come into that in more details. And then there's also some anomaly detectors or monitors that we also use on a daily basis. And I think that's sort of the introduction to how we work in Lunar with data and what we are placed in, what kind of organization we are.
Yeah, it sure is.
Yes.
But of course, it seems really easy and straightforward, right? But the reality is, well, it is more complex than that. This is a really good drawing, showing how exactly the data flows. So of course, okay, it's really good with our pointer that doesn't work. But we have, of course, the services up in the top right corner. 800 services producing millions of the events every month. So streaming that into our RabbitMQ using Kafka, it goes into our raw data lake. But this raw data, it can be hard to interpret it and how to actually read data from that. So based on the schema that is registered, how is the structure of this data, we can actually pull the data out. Then it goes into the structured data lake, and from there, we can actually read it into Redshift. From Redshift, of course, all this financial reporting, business analytics, insights, etc. Goes on. So just saying, it is a bit more complex than actually going through it. That was too much. There we got. So actually, why do we need governance? Well, we have a C-level. That is actually our C-level, and that is actually quotes from our C-level. So it is important for them. Our risk officer, of course, knowing the quality of our data is essential to manage risks, of course. For our bank CEO, our customers, they are the sense of running a bank. Without customers, we would not be, of course. So important for her. And Core, our very visionary CTO, of course, for him, innovation. And creating this everyday best experience of using the app. How can I actually utilize the data for that? Well, if we should be able to do all this, well, then we need some controls. We need some governance. So all our principles, our 8 principles, are sort of put together with this in mind. We need to have this in mind when we create these principles. So first of all, we'll go into the 4 here. Ownership, the data quality measures that we should have on our data model, how we actually classify our models, because we have 800 models. They are not all equally important, right? You somehow need to qualify them. And in the end, we also have some critical data elements. That could be KPIs, assets being used for regulatory reporting. That is sort of special elements of our data stack that needs additional measurement or monitoring. It's really important. If we go into how the data here is, so we have the microservices, of course, and Signe mentioned, well, the squads, they're producing data. So how can we actually sort of be in control there? Because it is a bit difficult, because they are they can do whatever they want within their own domain. So how can we be in control there? Well, it is double-clicking, sorry. Well, using data contracts. Data contracts is the concept that actually governs the data that they produce. So every time they produce a data element, they need to put in a data contract. The important thing here is, you can see on the top, code generated by SYNQ schema tool. What does SYNQ schema tool? Well, it's basically just a tool built by our engineers in the Empower. So this means the squads producing the data, they can just use this SYNQ schema tool, and then it will do all the steps needed to create the data contract. It's just a tool using to be applied. Then they are following our best practice, right? And of course, everything is put in, the versioning, the structure of it, what types of data is it that is in this event. So empowering the squads, that is basically how we did it. If we go on to actually our data warehouse and our actual data consumers, because in the end, of course, other squads can also be data consumers, but it is also mainly our data warehouse, of course. So looking into how it is these principles are applied here. Well, we use actually DBT tags. So based on the tags, we have our domains. In this case, it's credit and regulatory reporting. The owner is our data warehouse team. It could also be BI team or AI. And the criticality, in this case, is set to high. We operate with 3 criticals, high, medium, and low. Of course, you can define how many as you want, but that's sort of how we split it up. In SYNQ, this, you can see the meta.owner, that is actually automated. So in SYNQ, when we want to see how is, or what models do the data warehouse own, well, new models coming in that have the tag, they are automated or automatically applied to the ownership of this, right? So every time we do this, or everything we do is, how can we make it easy? How can we automate processes based on simple ways of working? We don't want manual processes, right? And that comes both in regards to this one. It is so super sensitive. Both in regards to the SYNQ schema tooling, the squads, it shouldn't be a burden for them to actually fulfill or fill out a data contract. They can just, they create an event, use the tool, and they have a data contract. Simple as that. It shouldn't be a burden for them. And the same when our developers do a new data model, they apply the tags, and instantly we actually got the metadata for them to see the models and make sure that we have the right monitoring in place. And that's actually the essence of doing this, the automated way, setting up these rail guards, or what you can call it. The criticality, you just saw before, we had this criticality equals high. The ownership, well, again, why do we do it? We do it because we want automations. So using the integrations that we have, both in SYNQ and we use Slack, well, then the right owners will automatically get notified when a model of theirs are failing. They can also see like how many downstream impact. So if it's one model and then suddenly it's 2,000 models impacted, well, that was pretty important. Then we need to fix it. And also in regards to the criticality, seeing when they log into our observability tool, well, you can see important models failed. Well, if there are a number there, then we definitely need to look at it, right? So. There we got it. And the critical data elements. Yeah. Here we can see on the left, it is our KPIs. I have defined it, or we have defined it as our, of course, our KPIs. That is being reported internally every month, and that is what we are performing against. That is our critical. That is needs to be the same. And we don't suddenly want to see a drop in our revenue or in our active users of the app. And then could also be specific things like our Copilot project, that's our AI. We might need to have some additional information, something that might not be tagged because it's something new. Well, then we can actually just choose them from a folder level. So just mark them and saying, okay, the ones with tag, but we also want the ones belonging to this folder. So it is sort of possible of actually setting up the data products both on tags or specifically choosing what you actually want. And known unknowns. That is sort of the test. You can see DBT models. We have 1,700 models in this case here. But how many tests in total do we have? 7,000 tests running. That is all what is included in DBT. So we use sort of the default test applied by DBT, the not null, uniqueness, of course, relations, accepted values, stuff like that. But there might also be something that you can code it. Of course, everything can be coded, right? But what if we see a drop in data? That is the abnormality monitors. It's a hard word. Anomality monitors from SYNQ. Actually going in and monitor how many records do we actually have in the different models now. And if we see a sharp drop, well, then we'll get an alert based on that as well. So a combination of those two is really powerful, I think.
Yes.
Now we're back to principle 4. Measuring this data quality. Well, again, who are the main stakeholders? Who are the main important ones to make sure are happy? Of course, C-level. It might be the business analyst want some insight as well, but of course, the C-level. We need to have their buy-in. And it is monitored across. We have like these categories of reliability, the accuracy, how complete is the data, is it timely, updated timely, etc. So these different kinds of groups based on, it could be domain. So if we want to dig into the data, we can do that. We can go to FCP or regulatory reporting and actually get the numbers only related to that. But of course, the C-level is maybe a bit more high. They just want high-level numbers. And yeah, that's more what is the error rate right now? What is the time to resolution? Do we have reoccurring errors popping up? That is sort of the definition that we actually want to report to the C-level, where, of course, the ones sitting in the different domains, they want to know exactly these numbers, more specifically for their area, so they can actually react on it on a day-to-day operation, because that's what they're doing. They're looking at it day-to-day operational, where the C-level, of course, want to know why do we have a 12 there. That's that doesn't seem right. But then the good story is, well, we had a major outbreak, and next time it was 100. So yeah, and then the C-level are usually happy. Of course, if we can see going down, going into the data and actually do a bit of typing and explaining why are the numbers as they are.
Can I maybe add here?
Yep.
So it's not only about wanting to, we actually also need to be on top of our data quality, because we could get fined if we're not, right?
Yes.
We have seen
Yes.
cases in Denmark with banks being fined on this. So
Yeah,
it's also a requirement.
it is. So if you do regulatory reporting with wrong data and you do it consequently, well, it's not good. Let's just say that. So yeah, using that way.
Yes.
So again, it's not a complete journey. We are not done at all, but we are going. And lessons learned, sort of, C-level buy-in, well, that is key. You need to have the C-level because they are the ones that can push the agenda, right? They are the main stakeholders. Culture, data culture, that is I would say, that is at least my experience, it is the biggest obstacle you'll ever meet out there in the business. Like developers need to think data, need to think about how is our data actually being consumed by others, and what is the consequence if I do a fuck up, right? If I suddenly do a switch between two columns in a record, what is the consequence of that actually? So they need to think data, and it is pretty hard. So talking to the business or talking to the people, yeah.
Can I also add to that? So one of the things we've done is also going out to interview the different domains squads to understand what limitations do they see, what challenges do they see now, and one of the things they have flagged, all of them more or less, was that they felt like they sort of lost track of their data, right? When it entered the data platform, they couldn't really see what happened to it, and that is also where the data contract is coming in. So we have full lineage when we enter the data into our data warehouse and dbt, but we missed the link from the event and into our data warehouse setup. And that is where the data contracts are now being used, and we're actually, in this quarter, working on setting up the full lineage. So the hope is at some point they can get back to the data in the data warehouse and actually be the one like using the data in the data warehouse, instead of them feeling they lose track of it. But they actually get a more self-serve data platform in the end and get the overview.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Good point. Again, thinking too, they produce the data, and then data is just thrown up in the air. Of course, they can go into like a source graph or whatever to see who actually consumes our data, but then that will be it. They can't see what critical data elements are their data actually feeding into. That is actually where we want to go to, right? That we have the full data discoverability, so they can follow the lineage of it. And yeah, third point, get it off paper. Get it out there living. And keeping in mind, again, it shouldn't be a burden. It should be something that makes life easier for the ones actually doing the governance. That is my main, because when I started, I had like 100 pages read through, and then doing a bit more typing and trying to make it more formal, right? And then I came to one of the developers and saying, okay, can we use it? And I'm really not sure what you're asking me to do. Can we try to take an example? And then we actually took one of the domains and said, okay, we need to go through these steps, and now we sort of have a framework of how can we actually do it. Applying the tags and setting up the automations based on that. So get it off paper. And governance is ongoing. Yeah, of course. It's not a one-time project. It is simply going on. Keep talking to the business. Yeah.
Maybe also for the get it off the paper, I also want to add, like, we do have these things described, but we also know that people might read it once and then they will forget again. So it's about not having a lot of SOPs that you need to stay on top of, but just it's the way you work, and we have very technically competent people in Lunar, because we are basically driven out of tech. So they don't want to sit and read, they want to code, right? So in this way, they're actually doing it just in the way they're working.
Exactly. Yeah. And that is the essence of us being in the empower column. It is in the word, right? We empower the whole company. So again, trying to take off these burdens and make it simple for them to actually be compliant. Well, that is that's how it is in Empower. Yes. We should try to make it easier for the developers and the business users as well.
That's
Anything
the final one? No, I think we're good.
No. Well,
just
a final one.
Should we maybe add we will be in the SYNQ booth also if you want to chat with us for a couple of hours. So find us, and then we have some time for Q&As, I think.
Yeah. So.
But we need these.
Do we have a mic? If anybody have some questions. Does anybody have some questions? Okay, a few there.
We need to put this on, right?
We have a few up here in front.
Hi there. Thanks for the great presentation. I'm curious why you went with SYNQ versus, say, Monte Carlo or some of the other players in the space, and why you went with this in the first place. I'm a big fan of SYNQ. I know there's a lot of bigger data teams that are like, we have some DBT testing and we do Slack alerts, so, why would you pay 10k a year, 50k a year for this?
I'll just take this off, then don't hear myself. I think SYNQ has shown me, at least, that they are actually interested in this and actually want to develop their product to make it more simple. The column-based lineage, for example, going down and can actually filter based on a source and see, okay, this specific column, where is that being used? That was some feedback like we have been giving them as a vendor, and we have like follow-up meetings with them where they're actually interested in hearing our feedback to the products, and also with the analytics, how that should be set up, because just as you mentioned, it is a new company. They started by being very operational, and I actually had the opposite. We want to report to the C-level, so it was two different levels, but I think they're actually getting there. So yeah.
Maybe also adding, so we could also maybe have built something in-house, but we didn't have the resources and time for it, and we needed this overview. So I think SYNQ was the right tool for us. We're still focusing on putting, like you could see with the metadata, the meta tags, we do it in dbt, but SYNQ works really well in the context that it just taps into dbt, so it's not like we need to build it into SYNQ, but we can build it into our backend, and then it just sort of catches up on that. So I think also, yeah, and then as you mentioned, like we have really good collaboration on developing the product to our needs, so it's not like maybe some other tools we will have to wait for a new version or something. They just do it. You have bi-weekly meetings, right? And then or you just put something in Slack for them, and then a few days later, something will be updated for us. Yeah.
Yeah. Question? Yeah. Yeah. We have 1 more minute.
Okay, my question is really quick. About the quality monitoring dashboard you showed, is that part of SYNQ, or is that something you built in-house?
Yeah. No, it is part of SYNQ. They have like analytical insight dashboard, so you can filter on these different monitors, and then also you can basically use all the tags that is being sourced. So whether that being meta tag or criticality or sources, I want to see everything that comes from Snowflake or whatever it might be. So yeah.
And also we're also co-developing on that a bit, right? So in the beginning it was just percentages, but then we're like, okay, we also need to know how many models or tests do we actually have, because it could be 100% correct, but if we only have one test, that sort of shows that we're not really having a high coverage. So that is also like something we're looking more and more into, right? Optimizing it as we go.
Yeah.
Also, especially we have these meetings with C-level every quarter, and then there will also be feedback that we'll just go and optimize as we go to sort of fit into the needs and stuff.
Okay. Great. Well, that will be it. Thank you.